Rachel, thank you so much for joining us on the Scholarship GPS podcast. So glad that we were having this chance to talk. If you would just first of all introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into talking about some of the more unknown aspects of college prep.
Absolutely. Dave, thanks so much for having me. I really love all of the work that you do and happy to share this with your audience. So, I have been working with kids and teenagers, helping them prepare for their road to college and then actually supporting them through college for almost 2 full decades. I started my career in higher education and college
Hmm.
access and worked with top tier colleges and their admissions offices all across the United States. And so I got to really, really love and explore the admissions process itself.
Okay.
And then once my kids got into those schools, my students, my job was to support them, right?
Hmm.
In this amazing scholarship program. And so I started to see not just trends on one campus, but bigger trends that were happening across college environments all over the United States.
Hmm.
And I started to get really fascinated with the impact of psychology and mental health. And
Hmm.
before we started talking about teens and the mental health crisis, because that's kind of anywhere you look today, you
Yeah.
hear about that.
Yep.
I was really starting to see this over 15 years ago, like the seeds of that. And
Okay.
so I
Hmm.
decided to pivot and actually I became a therapist and a school counselor. And I couldn't leave college college admissions and coaching behind. And so
Uh-huh.
I've sort of done this juggling this. I work with folks as a therapist, and then I also work with families as a private college coach.
Okay, great. Well, I mean, that is a very unique background that I think brings a different perspective. And like you said, kind of the teen, young adult mental health crisis that we hear so much about now. I think this is a much needed conversation and perspective that this you're the first guest I've had who's even gone down this path. So I'm very excited to chat with you about this.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's been, 20 years ago, the stressors that kids were experiencing, I would say were normative life stressors. But
Yeah.
the level of stress and the level of anxiety that kids are experiencing today, right? Parents will still say, oh, these are teenage hormones. And I'm like, no, this level of crisis, that's not normal teenage development. And so to me, like I firmly believe that kids have a right to move forward, right? To like think about their future with
Hmm.
excitement,
Sure.
not with that stress and anxiety of like, I'm not good enough and oh my gosh, it's so much work. And that terror that we hear from families when they reach out to us. Right.
Yeah. Yep. Well, let's start at, I guess, kind of a foundational level. Talk about the brain and maybe brain development and how that impacts college prep.
Yeah. So one of the things I always tell the families that I work with is your teen is not ready for college yet,
Okay. Yeah.
right? Like even when they're senior and they're applying for college, the only thing they have to be ready to do is apply to college.
Yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
So the brain is so important, and knowing what's happening in the teenage brain is also really, really important. There are two huge periods of brain development.
Hmm.
And the first really big period is that, like, 0 to 3, right? When you
Okay.
take a baby and they can't even hold their head, and all of a sudden, a year later, they're walking, right?
Hmm.
And then a year
Right.
later, they've got like a whole vocabulary of words.
Yeah.
That boost of brain development happens again. We see it in the teenage years.
Okay.
And so the last part of our brain to develop is actually our frontal cortex, which is generally about here. And it's not even finished developing until about age 25,
Okay. Hmm.
right? That part of the brain is responsible for listen to this list. It's everything that has to do with college. Okay.
Okay.
Time management, planning, deciding what to do, sequencing, what should I do first,
Hmm.
right? How do I get from point A to point Z, right? With all the steps in between, decision making from a logical place,
Hmm.
and emotional regulation.
Wow. Okay.
That's still growing all the way through 25. And the way the brain works is that when we get nervous or we start to feel anxious about something, we call it flipping of the lid, right? So if this is our frontal cortex,
Hmm.
when we get anxious, and for those of you who are listening, right, I have my fingers over my fist, right? When our frontal cortex, our fingers, um, they flip. Our brain actually disconnects from our frontal cortex when we are dysregulated. So if we're
Okay.
feeling nervous, we actually can't tap into our frontal cortex powers. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So imagine
Yeah.
we've got a teenager who's starting to feel anxious about college prep, and they've got a parent who's like, "What do you got to sit down and do this?" Da, 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 da. And that teen, they flip their lid. Like they're already in an anxious place,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
any of their frontal cortex powers are diminished, right? Or completely
Mhm.
offline.
Right.
So that's where we see the procrastination, that's where we see the avoidance, maybe we see the like, right, the kind of teenage attitude that we
Yeah.
get to see. And it's not that teens don't want to think about their future, they're overwhelmed. And when
Yeah. Yep.
overwhelmed, their brain can't even tap into the like, where do I start?
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
Am I understanding this right? I think the way I'm hearing it is that it's almost like a fight or flight response. The kid gets the attitude, the fight, or they just shut down the flight. Am I right about that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the emotional, the center of our brain is the amygdala, right?
Mhm.
And that is where the fight or flight response is. There's also another response called fawn or people pleasing. And
Yeah.
so
Yep.
that gets kicked in too. So the kid who's diligently doing everything, we're saying, I'm gonna do biology because I've always done biology, and that's what my parents say I should do, right?
Yeah.
Um, we have kids moving through the motions, but not necessarily feeling confident about the motions that they're doing.
Hmm.
And so there is a different way to help kids move through the process. And that's really recognizing the missing skills, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
I have, I have a younger kiddo, and if I go clean your room, she's like, huh? And never does it, right?
Uh-huh.
That's the version of like, I need you to do college research. Right? If
Okay.
I
Yeah.
say, "I need you to pick up every toy off the floor,"
Hmm.
she'll go and do that.
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
we'll come back and I'll go, "Hey, now I want you to put any clothes in the drawers," right? And I
Right.
break it down into very specific tasks,
Yeah.
right? And I know that the tasks match her skills, right?
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
that's something that in the years that I've been doing college coaching, I'm like, there are two really big sets of skills that kids need to have. And
Okay.
it's not intuitive.
Hmm.
And the first area is they need to have self-awareness. They need that insight,
Yeah. Okay.
right?
Yep.
And so we often think about that insight when it comes to personal statements. Gosh, it's so important for
Yeah.
a really powerful personal
Yeah.
statement. The insightful essays and responses always win out the flashiest vocabulary and and all things. I once had a friend who's also a college coach go, "Gosh, Rachel, I wish there was a way we could teach kids insight." I looked at them and I said, I'm a therapist too. Like, that's my job, right?
Yeah.
My job is fostering insight.
Right.
And
Hmm.
I think that part of me has always gone to like I have a very detailed questionnaire that I use with families where it's not just the kid that I'm asking, it's also the parent, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Okay.
starting to grab details and then show them, right? So that they can go, oh, yeah, this is something that I've always done, or this is actually really true about me. And so helping kids take these little details that are important to them,
Hmm.
like a skill, for example. Um, it was, I think, my third job after college where I had the same exact nickname. I was called Miss Details at my first job, and then Miss
Hmm.
Details at my second job, and then Little Miss Details at my third job.
Okay.
And I was like, I guess this is a thing that I do.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right? And Dave, if you think about it, we need that life experience and that mirroring from other people to be like, that's your strength. This is
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
you do. But when we do it so easily and it comes naturally to us, kids don't realize it doesn't come naturally to others.
Right. Right.
And so we can foster that insight early, right?
Okay.
And so that's a huge part in helping kids move through the college process without that extra stress or anxiety when
Hmm.
we can label and articulate like this is who I am and this is what I like and this is what I'm really good at. And here's how I've shown that.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. When you talked about kind of the holding up the mirror so the student can see themselves. Immediately thought of a student I worked with a few years back who was going into computer science, and it was, I'm going to say, 3 to 4 months before he revealed to me that he had developed two apps that were on app stores. It's like, why have
That's
we not been
amazing.
talking about this in your
Yes.
essays all along? Like,
Yes.
and it was so obvious to me, but to him it wasn't. And I guess part of that is, the brain development just hasn't happened yet. Part of it,
Mhm.
has probably not implemented some of the skills that you work with students.
Yes.
Yeah, yep.
Absolutely. I've worked with students who, I had one student who, you know, uh, was a very competitive athlete throughout all of high school, right? Like
Uh-huh.
45 hours in the gym, competitive,
Okay.
national competitions, everything. And when we worked on their resume, their first draft had nothing to do with that sport. I was like,
Wow.
"What is that?"
Okay.
And they're like, "Well, it's not a job." Right? And
Uh-huh.
so for,
Yeah.
that teenage lens of like, "Well, this is what this is supposed to be,"
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah. Yep.
creating rules around things. And I go, "No, your resume is supposed to show how you spend your time
Uh-huh.
outside of the requirements."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we want people to see that you're spending hours training on top of your academic,
Right.
calendar and everything.
Yeah. Yep.
So that self-concept is so powerful.
Hmm.
This
Yeah.
second piece, right? That second piece of knowledge that kids really need to have to move through the process
Hmm.
is information about colleges in general,
Okay. Hmm.
right? So, one of my favorite questions to ask kids is, what does the word interdisciplinary mean?
Okay.
And no matter, I think I've had two kids in the last 10 years tell me correctly what it means.
Yeah.
Everyone
Okay.
else goes, I don't know, something to do with like punishment.
Yeah.
Right? Because it sounds like discipline, but
Yeah. Hmm.
discipline comes from the Latin word, right? To teach.
Yep.
And so when we talk about college programs or things that are available to them, kids don't inherently know about open curriculum versus general ed classes.
Yeah.
Parents don't know about that. They don't
Hmm.
know about experiential education versus lectures, right?
Hmm.
They don't know what interdisciplinary, meaning a class that might combine biology and sociology
Right.
combined together with professors teaching that content.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so high school is so different
Yeah.
from college. It just
Hmm.
is. But we don't have a way right now of really showing kids what's possible.
Hmm.
And so it's really hard then to decide this is a learning environment that would really work for me.
Yeah.
And instead, we start to go, hey, kids, do you want a big school or a small school? A school with Greek life or a school not with Greek life?
Hmm.
And those are great characteristics, but it's not that match. And so what
Right.
happens
Right.
when you give kids the tools to understand colleges and their programs,
Hmm.
they can make sense of what they learn.
Yeah.
Then they can actually absorb the research, right?
Right. Okay.
So when kids have this information, it's much easier for them to do things with it's much easier for them to do the actual research itself.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Well, I think we've kind of hit on this a little bit. That certainly, I think everybody knows college prep is stressful, but you just want to talk a little bit about what makes it stressful or why.
Yeah, it's the not knowing,
Okay. Yeah.
right? So, oh, I also, I tell this to families. I'm like, I want you to imagine that I'm taking you on a trip. You have to pack tonight.
Hmm.
I'm not telling you anything about that trip.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
not telling you where we're going or how we're going. Maybe it's the train, maybe it's an airplane, but like you have one suitcase and like that's it.
Hmm.
What, how do you feel packing? I'm like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
is it hot weather? Is it cold weather? Do I need sandals? Do I need sneakers? Right?
Hmm.
And I'm like, that's what we're asking these 16 and 17-year-olds to do
Yeah.
before they've really learned who they are.
Hmm.
Right? And so then they're hearing from friends and classmates and other parents and teachers how hard and scary and stressful this process is.
Hmm.
And we have just flipped their lid. Like that is the stress,
Yeah. Okay.
right? And instead of thinking about college prep as the decisions they have to make,
Hmm.
if we can start earlier and help, ninth graders and 10th graders or even eighth graders just learn about themselves and what those interests are, and we can shift it to a process that's fun and exciting and engaging, right?
Hmm.
That's what I say to, the teens I work with. Like, I dare you, I challenge you, have fun, go
Yeah.
out there,
Hmm.
stop hanging out on your phone, stop being
Yeah.
on social media,
Yeah.
stop watching other people live their lives,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
actually find something that you can be passionate about.
Yeah.
Actually have fun,
Hmm.
right? And if you can do that and find those answers, we can build that into something really special and powerful, right? So,
Well, I was just going to say, like, for students who do that, who kind of crack that code and figure out what they are passionate about, and have had a little bit of time to engage that passion in a meaningful way, those are the kids who win the scholarships.
yes,
Um,
they get into this, they write beautiful applications, right?
yeah.
I've had college admissions officers call my students. I still remember they're like, what? They just wanted to say this was like such a beautiful application. The
Yeah.
insight, the match, being able to say this is why you're a good school for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Besides, it's highly ranked, right? Like, they don't need to know that.
Yeah, or because you have a robust Greek life, like, I mean,
Exactly.
I don't think any college admissions officer has ever admitted a student because the kid said, I'm excited to become a whatever, a Delta Pi or something.
No,
Yeah.
but I have seen, and this is, from my years in admissions, I have seen schools say, gosh, you really want, marine biology, but we're a landlocked school that we're not
Yeah.
a good fit
Yeah.
for you, right? And so
Yeah.
even if marine biology was something for grad school, right, there was a mismatch in
Yeah.
communicating that.
Yeah.
And so the application itself is really pretty simple. And when we,
Hmm.
get some demographics, we fill in some information. And for many schools, you're writing a personal statement,
Yep.
right? If
Hmm.
you don't know what to write about, that's when it's stressful.
Yeah.
And if
Yep.
you don't know what you're looking for in a school, that's when it's stressful.
Hmm. Well, I mean, one of the things you said was starting earlier, thinking about this earlier, but are there some other skills that students or parents, I guess, could develop to help reduce the stress of the college prep cycle?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So the first skill I want kids to learn is actually how to research a college.
Okay.
It, I'm never going to ask a kid to research a college if I haven't taught them how. And
Okay.
I
Yeah.
see this as a therapist when I work with teens and they have an outside, someone who's not me doing the college coaching.
Uh-huh.
And they'll get a list of schools and they're like, I don't know, right? I don't know. They all blend together. Right. And they're like,
Right.
I don't know. So I'll just, what does, what they think is fine. I'll go with that.
Hmm.
Or what the rankings say, I'll go with that.
Hmm. Yeah.
So years ago, I realized kids were not going on college websites. That is a primary source. Like when we
Wow. Okay.
think about writing any type of research paper and not using primary sources.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Right.
you need the information. And so I started to teach kids methodically, like step one, right? Like take all the toys off the floor. Step
Uh-huh.
one, look at the homepage.
Right.
They're like, what am I looking for? I'm like, okay, wait, just what do you notice?
Just
Right.
look
And I'm
at it.
teaching
Yeah.
them how to observe and take in information. What are they saying? Who are they
Hmm.
speaking to? What are they marketing? Are they talking about their grad students, their professors, their undergrads?
Hmm.
Right? This is after they know the difference between undergrad and graduate school,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Which
Hmm.
is a learning area.
Sure. Yeah.
And then we compare it to a different website, a different school that's very different, and they
Hmm.
start to see through that comparison.
Yeah. Yep.
And then we move deeper and deeper and deeper into the college websites. And so, I worked with um, just very recently a student who we spent an hour and a half together. I was able to help her articulate, this is what I'm interested in.
Hmm.
This is what those words look like on a college website. And so now I understand that. And then I walked through the process of how to look at a website. We left that hour and a half meeting and I was like, here are a bunch of schools. Gave her a list of 30 schools that fit her criteria.
Okay.
And I was like, I want you to spend 5 minutes going through this process on each of them.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
that's it? I'm like, that's it.
Hmm.
And she's like, okay, I can do that. 30 schools she researched in a week.
Yeah. Okay.
Was
Yep.
able to go, I want to learn more about these. And I don't know that I want to learn more about these. And
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure yet.
Yep.
And just giving her permission to do a little bit at a time,
Uh-huh.
she did so much and learned so much.
Yeah. Yep.
And so that tangible, like when kids aren't doing something, right? They're like, I know what I need to do, I don't know how.
Hmm.
And that skill of here's how you research a website. Here's how you call an admissions office.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
here's how you ask these questions to
Yeah.
people,
Hmm.
right? Um, those are easy things for kids to do in 10th and 11th grade after they start to learn things.
Okay. Yeah.
At
Yep.
11th grade is really just finalizing the list. And, if there are tours you want to do, then great. And
Right.
summer is when you get that application done.
Yeah.
In
Yep.
my mind, there is no real need for a student, a senior, to be
Hmm.
working on an application past October 1st.
I love hearing that because I'm a planner, and so one of my just personal frustrations is people coming to me so late in the process. Like
Yeah.
I literally have people reaching out to me. We're recording this in mid August. Reaching out to me. How do I find scholarships for my kid who's going to school next week? It's like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I was late to the game with my son, but my goodness, I was not that late. And I mean, I'm not trying to bag on anybody because everybody, has their own issues, and we all kind of come at things differently and make mistakes. But and just I love hearing that message that if you're intentional and you take some of these steps, you can be done by, what'd you say, October 1st?
I would love October 1st, but really, I think November 30th is like,
Okay.
I want
Okay.
everything done.
Yeah.
I worked with a student once who we had regular weekly meetings,
Hmm.
during the application process. And we finished before Thanksgiving, sent
Okay.
everything in, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then, that the next week on Wednesday, he messages me and he's like, I'm running late. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
We're done.
Uh-huh.
And he
Yeah.
told me, he goes, what do you mean we're done?
Mhm.
I'm like, we're done.
Yeah.
Did
Yep.
we look like that? And I started to worry, like, did I miss something? And I was like, no. We pulled up our documents and like every single thing is submitted.
Yeah.
You see, but it was so easy. And
Yeah.
that to me is the goal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because
For
then
sure.
you've got your best applications, right? You have all of your frontal cortex. You're not anxiously writing,
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
You're confident about what you're putting forward. And then you have time and space to work with senior schedules and obligations because these, like, you might be busy senior year with lots of
Yeah.
other things
Yeah.
too.
Or
And then
maybe apply for a few more scholarships.
exactly. And then you
Yeah.
have time for those
Yeah.
scholarships and you
Yeah.
have the stories to write about in your
Yes.
scholarship.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we've said that planning and starting early and building some of these skills are going to help, but that doesn't mean that it just magically makes applying for college zero stress, right?
There's still a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of tasks and a lot of steps. And so that's where I encourage parents to sit down. And
Hmm.
if parents, I know it's really hard to be the one who's like motivating your child. And so if you're, I call it you're in the parent zone, then this
Hmm.
is where having, an outside coach or an outside just structure,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
To help you figure out the tasks,
Hmm.
right? So that time management piece, that sequencing of the like, you have to work backwards. If you want to submit your applications,
Yep.
by November 30th, what has to happen
Hmm.
before? And then all of a
Yep.
sudden that senior is like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. There's something every single week to do that.
Yep.
We need kids to be able to see that. And I
Hmm.
think in a digital age, we think that kids know how to plan because they have phones with alerts going off in their pockets, but
Hmm.
that's not actually time management, right? Just because
Yeah.
we have an alert going, there's a deadline,
Hmm.
doesn't mean that we set ourselves up to like finish each task with time.
Yeah. It doesn't break it down in a granular enough fashion to see what's
Exactly.
required to hit that deadline, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And the other piece that makes, college stressful, we don't know. I have worked with
Yeah.
such amazing applicants who have been waitlisted to schools that they, they were competitive with. It,
Yeah. Yep.
my years working in higher, higher education, I got to see their algorithms, right? Like there were years that schools overestimated
Mm,
how
mhm.
many students would that they accepted would actually enroll. They
Yeah.
overestimated. And so they had space, meaning money coming in that they were expecting that
Yep.
wasn't coming in. And so the next year they were overly generous and they were like, please, everybody, like we want more people coming in. We want to fill our spaces.
Yeah.
And then I've also worked with schools where they way underestimated.
Uh-huh.
And so then they admitted so many students and way more said yes and planned to
Mhm.
come. And
Yeah.
that made, UC Irvine made the news years ago for doing that. And they were looking for every reason to say no to kids. Like, you didn't get this paper in time. And they're like, "Well,
Uh-huh.
actually, I did," right? Because they had
Yeah.
too many students that they said yes to.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that next year, they waitlisted so many more students.
Mhm.
Right? So there are trends outside of your control when it comes
Yeah.
to college
Yep.
acceptance.
Yep.
And the answer is not just to apply to 20 more schools. It's not
Mhm.
just to saturate, oversaturate the application pools. It's to really make sure that you are communicating in your applications. You're not my backup choice,
Mm, okay. Yeah.
right? Because if you are accepted and you go, that helps them in their ranking.
Right.
When you
Right.
don't go, that can hurt them in their
Mhm.
rankings.
Yeah.
So it is competitive,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean that there won't be an amazing school where you can be successful.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
that's the message that I want to tell, families, especially if like, I grew up with an expectation you're going to college and you're going to go to a good college.
Mhm.
But if I could go back in time and tell my family, my parents, and myself and be like, wherever you go, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And for
Yeah.
all intents and purposes, I went to a school that was way too big for me. And
Okay. Mhm.
I would have done something different knowing what I know now.
Yeah. Yep.
But what makes you successful is not the school name, it's what you do at that school,
Yeah. Yep.
right? Like if
Yep.
you go to Harvard and you have nothing on your resume and you just expect that like that school is going to open up doors, well, you're going to be standing at that door for a while knocking.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, of course, networking is important,
Yeah.
but like you said, if you're at Harvard and you do nothing,
You have
your
to back
your
that up. You
yeah,
have to have stories of
your
experience.
network's actually going to work against you because your reputation is going to be this guy doesn't do anything.
Yep,
So, yeah, and
exactly.
like you said, you could be at whatever university nobody's heard of, and you're just killing it. You're putting out research or
Mhm.
whatever it is. People are going to hear about that, and you're
Yeah.
going to make your way. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great message for sure.
Yeah.
Um, well, so we've kind of talked at somewhat of a high level. Is there advice you want to maybe share with parents, how they can help support their teens, and if you even want to break it down a little bit more? So, when people are going to first hear this, they're going to have seniors who are right in the middle of this process. But then I do also want to talk to parents of younger folks who I'm hoping will listen, because we've said numerous times, the earlier you start thinking about this and implementing some of this, the more effective it'll be. So, I'll just open it up to you and you can kind of respond to that.
Absolutely. All right. So, parents, this is a really tricky time. High school and teenage years is a really hard time for kids to be making such big decisions.
Mhm.
And your teen's going to be asking for space. They're
Mhm.
hopefully politely asking for space, but sometimes they are not politely asking for
Yeah.
space, right?
Mhm.
Parents, I want you to know that this is too big a decision to let them do this fully independently. That
Yeah.
they need guardrails. They
Mhm.
need some parameters. And I've heard you say, Dave's, on different podcasts, you have to be able to talk about finances. You have
Yeah.
to be able to think clearly and set some parameters around
Mhm.
this is what we can do, this is what we can't do,
Yep.
right? That structure is actually very helpful for teens
Mhm.
to know that this is what's possible.
Yeah.
When teens have too many choices, when humans really, choice paralysis is the overwhelm.
Mhm.
Humans actually do better with fewer choices than more choices,
Yeah.
right? Like if you're ever standing at a cereal aisle and you're like, there are thousands of
Yeah.
cereals, right?
Yep. Mhm.
That's choice paralysis.
Right.
And so teens have that. And so, you know, asking kids, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? That might not be the right question. But
Okay.
going,
Yeah.
what do you like about this school?
Hmm.
Right? It's not just that feeling, right? Our feelings can actually, and as a therapist, our feelings can be misleading, right?
Hmm.
And we
Yeah.
can tie
Yep.
into certain feelings, right? Because of, we had a really great tour guide, so I love this
Yeah.
school,
Yeah.
right? Or I
Yep.
had a really okay, it was just okay,
Yep.
but we're missing things about
Yeah.
the school itself.
Yep.
So parents, kids are not necessarily looking at the career centers, for the colleges that they're looking at.
Hmm.
Get to know the career services and
Hmm.
get to know um, how they help students build those experiences, build a rich resume
Right.
um,
Okay.
throughout the school year and the summers. Like that's something really really helpful and tangible
Hmm.
to help guide students towards. Um, for juniors and sophomores, parents, this is the time to be encouraging, right? If your kid is doing lots of activities, that's great. But
Hmm.
if your kid is doing activities because they're conveniently there or their friends are doing it, we want to actually redirect them to something that feels more personal.
Okay.
Still do
Yeah.
those things that your friends are doing, but let's do something extra, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Many school districts have pupil free days. Those are wonderful days for kids to be doing job shadowing or informational interviews or service projects, right? Things that they
Hmm.
can create.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so it takes a lot of managing for parents to look ahead and to set that up and to think in advance.
Yep.
Um, but that's so valuable for kids to be able to do those
Hmm.
experiences.
Yes. Absolutely.
And so I think that, for early high school, late middle school, the most helpful and supportive thing parents can do is articulate their strengths. Wow, like genuinely you're good at this, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And to see where those passions can be explored.
Hmm.
Um, one of the things that I'm um going to be launching this fall is actually a coaching program for parents.
Okay.
I'm calling it Family University, and we are flipping college prep on its head. Like we are gonna like this is for families who really want to prioritize that mental health and wellness for their kids
Okay.
and
Hmm.
lead with that um, passions and I'm strategies, not stress. Right, that's
Okay.
really what
Yeah.
I want to help families
Yep.
do.
Yep.
And so this program is for parents. It's like a whole new world for them to have to know what they need to know to do what they need to do when they need to do it.
Hmm.
And so this is a coaching program for families to be able to get that support with little micro doses from me here and there.
Awesome. That's very cool. You said it's coming this fall?
It's coming this fall.
Okay,
Yep,
fantastic. Well, I don't know when this will be released, so I'll keep my eye on your website, or you can drop me an email to let me know if it's out, and then even
absolutely,
if it launches after the podcast comes out, we'll update the links. So,
absolutely. Thank
um,
you.
and then speaking of, for people who would like to work with you, whether it's through this new coaching program or maybe other ways that you work with students and parents, how can they reach you?
Absolutely. So you can find me on my website. It's rachelfusco.com. So Rachel, F as in Frank, US as in United States, CO.com.
Fantastic. Well, we will put the link in the show notes today. Rachel, this has been eye-opening for me. I'm sure it's been eye-opening for anybody who's taking the time to listen or watch. Thank you so much. I would love to have you back on, and very much appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. It was great chatting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.